Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. It's Paul here from Midland Marauders, and today in this painting tutorial I am going to be painting an Imperial Knight Lancer from Warhammer the Horus Heresy. And for this one I haven't recorded it, but I did prime the model in 3 particular colours, and they were white scar for the parts that I wanted to be white on the model. For the green parts for House Vyronii I used Vallejo. This is, I believe it's Goblin Green. Yep, Goblin Green. And for the main frame, I used Citadel's Lead Belcher. So sit back and let me know what you think. It was a super fun miniature to paint, and it's the largest I've painted in quite some time. But anyway, let's go. Okay guys, so as you can see, we started with a primer of Lead Belcher by Citadel all over the frame of the knight. I did glue the head on as well, and then any of the white armour panels I used white scar, and then I used the Vallejo Goblin Green on any of the green armour panels. The likes of the Power Fist, I sprayed them silver first and then I went over them with the green. And I did leave all the armour parts separate. I left the banners off as well and sprayed them white. So the first thing we want to do is we want to tackle that overspray of green on all the silver parts. So the silver that I am using for this build is 2 thin coats, Sir Coats Silver. The reason I went with these is because they're in dropper bottles, and I'm just using a large, the extra large base brush for this. So with the paint on the palette and a small bit of water in with it, I just went over the whole thing. Anywhere that green went on to the silver parts on the arms, and work my way around the model. Not really overly fussed about it because you can sort it out later on then when you're painting in your details. Just work it into all the little nooks and crannies, all the pistons and the rivets. Okay, so now we want to pick out some of the details. So I'm using the Vallejo Game Colour Metallic, and I'm using 2 thin coats Dragon's Gold for this again because they're in dropper bottles. But whatever gold or other colours you have, just work you around picking out any parts that you want to put in as, not silver. It's totally up to you. So I did mix some on the palette, and again I decided that I was going to have all these little sort of centre spots on the pistons. You can use Retributor Armour Gold from Citadel, it's the very same. I just happen to have the Sir Coats, or the 2 thin coats gold. Just slowly work your way around. You don't have to go over the top with this, or I suppose you can go as over the top as you want, really. I wasn't too fussed, I just sort of picked out the centres of pieces there with the gold. Okay, so with all the metal areas picked out, I'm giving it a 50-50 wash of Agrax Earthshade and Nuln Oil. And I'm also using the extra large base brush because I don't have a large wash brush for this. Okay, so I just worked this into all the recesses on the miniature. You might want to put something down on your work area because this can be quite a messy step. But as you can see, that the black and brown washes mixed together, they give a really nice sort of a mechanical feel to the whole thing. Okay, so with that done and dry, I am going to give it a dry brush of Mithril Blade with a large dry brush from Citadel. The important thing with this step is make sure you get as much paint off your brush as is possible. That is the secret with dry brushing. Over and over again, the less paint you have on your brush, the better it is. So make sure you give it a really good wiping on a piece of paper towel. And just work around. I use this on everything, all the gold parts, all the silver parts, all the metallic parts, just everywhere. Work it in there. Okay, so with the dry brushing done, we're going to move on to the armour plates. For this we're going to give an all-over coat of Warpstone Glow, and then we will give it a light dry brush of Moot Green to give us those really nice House Vyronii green colours. Okay, so I've got some Warpstone Glow on my palette here, and I've got mixed it with some water, and I'm using my my extra large base brush. I'm just going to brush it all over the areas that we want to be green. You can use any colour you want, really, to paint these knights, depending on the household that you're choosing. The thing about it is you don't have to be too careful when you're doing this, because we will be painting the gold trim afterwards. So just make sure that you work it into all the recesses for a nice even coat. You might need to do 2 or 3 coats of this. So with the warp stone glow applied, we're going to apply a shade of Beltan green. I'm not overly fussy about this. I'm really just applying it to the carapace where you're going to see it, because when it's on a tabletop, it's, with the distance you're away from it, it's going to be far enough that it's not really going to matter. So just paint it into all the recesses. I'm using a standard size brush here. What I found is go with the largest brush that you can manage. Don't try and go with a really small brush at the start. So just take your time, pick out all those areas, work it in there. It'll just add to the overall contrast in the end. So with the shading done, we're going to move on to moot green now. So I'm going to use a small dry brush for this, and makeup brush, whatever you have handy. Work it into the bristles really well and get as much of it off as you possibly can on tissue. Then we're just going to take the armor plates, and we're just going to lightly brush it on to pick out the raised areas and the details all over it. You can also work it into the middles of the armor panels for the chest, just to add a bit of definition there as well. And any of the curved areas, just brush it on to the highest point of the curve, and it will just give you enough contrast to show that there is a curve on the piece. Okay, so I decided that I wanted to use some white star to paint some white panels on the leg armor. So as you can see, I taped it off and just give it. It took about 3 or 4 coats to get coat coverage. Now I'm coming in with Skeleton Horde contrast paint. Give it a good shake. Shake it and shake it and shake it and shake it. Don't be afraid. Get it on your palette. Mix a little bit of water in it that it's not as strong. Or contrast medium, whichever you prefer. Work it in there. And I find that this gives a really sort of a lovely off-white bone ivory colour over white, and just leaves it a very simple method to paint off-white or bone coloured panelling. So you can see I just painted in there. Make sure you put on a good heavy coat to allow it to flow, because if you don't, you will get the tide marks that you just do not want with the contrast paint. Again, I painted this shoulder panel as well. I decided afterwards that I wanted this one white. That's why it's got the green trim on it, because I happened to see the box art, and it had there was a white armor panel on the knight, and I was like, oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. So that's why it was originally painted green and then came along to be white afterwards. Okay, so we're going to use some white star for the next step again. Again, you can use white scar from Citadel, and I'm using my Army Painter dry brush. So I'm just going to get it on the palette. I found the best method for doing this is to actually stipple it on over the Skeleton Horde base coat, because it allows for some nice variation in texture that you may not necessarily get with brushing it, or dry brushing, or just normal painting and layering it. So as you can see, I'm brushing it here, but I do stipple it as well. Okay, so with all the white panels done, the green panels done, we're going to do the gold trim, and we're going to use Dragon's Gold for this. And I'm using my standard brush as well. As you can see, I've changed my camera angle. I relocated my painting station to my hobby desk in my hobby room. So let me know what you think. Do you prefer this angle? Is it better? Is it worse? It actually doesn't look as cluttered as the other one. So just go along and give all the trim a nice coating of Dragon's Gold. Take your time, because you don't want to get on any of that green area. If you do, just go back to your Warpstone Glow touch it in, you'll be fine. I gave the gold trim on this each area probably two to three coats, just to get a nice even coverage of the gold, because it will just be worth it in the end. Obviously, you don't need to go as heavy with your subsequent coats, but just make sure for your initial coat that you get a good coverage on. Okay, so with the Dragon's Gold done, I'm going to come along and shade it, and for this step I am using Reichland Flesh Shade. I'm using my brush again, my normal standard brush. I don't use a wash brush, not really, bar I'm washing something really large. It's nice to put it on a palette though, because you have some control over the wash that's on the brush. So let's just take the piece, and we want to predominantly, I should say, concentrate on those recesses where the two armor plates meet, but also you want to let that wash flow in around the studs as well and the rivets. So just work your way around, picking out all the pieces. Also, like, brush down towards where the wash is going to flow to, as opposed to brushing away from the edge. And if you see it pooling anywhere, just rinse your brush, use that damp brush to mop up any excess wash, because it will definitely help you in the long run. So again, do that on all your gold trim. Okay, so with the shade dry, we're going to start brightening up that gold. So we're going to use glistening gold for this. Again, if you've got Liberator gold from Citadel, that's perfectly fine as well. Just make sure that you put it on your palette, add a little water to it, that there's a nice flow to it. Don't have it too thick. And just work it into all the areas that you want to brighten up with your glistening gold. Work it in around the rivets, as opposed to painting right over them, that a little of that shade will be left. And if you can paint right up as close as you can to the joints in where two armor plates meet, and allow that shade to show in the recess, that will all add to it as well. So just take your time. You're not in a hurry. Just enjoy the experience of painting, picking out that gold. Put on an audiobook. I've started listening to some of the old Horus heresy books on Audible while I'm painting, and I find it very relaxing. So just take your time and pick it all out. Okay, so I decided I wanted red banners. So for this, I am using Blood Angel's red contrast paint. Again, give them a really good shake. Get your brush in there. Put it on your palette. As you can see, I've cleaned my water, because the metallic pigment from the gold paints was in the water, so we want nice clean water. So onto the white base coat. We just want to paint this in. I hadn't really decided what I was going to do with these banners until I started painting them, and they came together actually pretty easily. I was originally going to do a gold trim on them, but then as I looked at them, I realised that the border on the banner and the back all sort of were the one. So then I thought, the white is a nice contrast to the red. So as you'll see later on in the video, I kept them as white, and I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. So you just want to have lots of paint on your brush to give it a chance to flow into all those areas. Do keep an eye on it that it's not flowing too much on you, and that it's not going to pool in one particular corner. Again, you're going to want to come back with a damp brush if that is happening, and just gather up the excess paint. So one part I nearly forgot was the rubber joints on the legs. So for this, I'm using a Black Templar contrast paint. I'm not even going to block out any of the silver. I'm just getting it in there, getting it on the brush, not even putting it on a palette. Just paint it in there, lash it in. Just make sure you don't get any on the silver. Okay, so I decided I want to paint some hazard stripes on the cabling. So for this, I painted the cables with Everland Sunset. Before I did that, I went and I painted them with the Black Templar. I gave them 2 coats of that to give them a good solid black coat. The rubber on the legs, I only just gave it 1 coat. but for the cabling I gave it 2 good coats and it worked all the better. So this Everland Sunset has seen better days. It's sort of gone off in the pot. So I just came along and very sort of roughly I paint some slightly horizontal stripes on the cabling. So I wasn't fully happy with how the paint was coming out of the pot, so I just went back in, rooted around in the dryer stuff down the bottom and got it out there. Again, take your time. If you're not happy with how it's turning out, forget about painting hazard stripes. No one's going to give out oh, your hazard stripes are not good enough. Again, look, we're our biggest critics ourselves. For every hazard stripe you paint, though, you're getting better at the next one. Think of it like that. The one thing I did not anticipate was how difficult it was going to be to paint hazard stripes on the cable at the front of the lance. Okay, so I painted the viewing hatch with the Blood Angels red when I was using it, and now I'm coming back with Wild Rider red and Tau Light Ochre to highlight it, and just to give it that sort of like a curved feel to the hatch. So we get the Wild Rider red on the palette. Again, we add a little water to it, come in with the hatch. As you can see, I've also picked out the other parts of the hat, the carapace that I wanted silver, like the handle and the venting on the back. So you're just going to paint a sort of a crescent moon shape on the glass in your Wild Rider red, and that will give the illusion of a curve. Okay, so now we're going to come and apply a dot of Tau Light Ochre in the corner of the glass. I also used this same method when I was painting the lenses on the head of the knight. I just didn't record it, and I also highlighted any of the red cabling using the same method, but just not to the same extent. So just get a small bit on your brush, and you just want to apply a tiny little dot just to give that slight reflection on each of the red lenses and the red glass. Okay, so we're going to use some Thousand Suns blue as a base coat to work on this glow effect, and then we'll come along with some Baharoth blue afterwards. So I've got some Lamia medium on the palette. I use about 3 parts Lamia medium to 1 part Thousand Suns blue, just to create a sort of a wash consistency for the Thousand Suns blue. Because you want the silver to show through. You just want it to settle in the deepest recesses, anywhere that there's going to be energy glow on the miniature. Again, this is a sort of a thing that you just want to build up in the layers slowly. So just on the nodes of the shield, I just dotted it in there, let it flow in around each of the nodes. Also on the shield generator, I got it and I just let it flow in around the coils on the rim of the shield. Again, just don't be afraid to let it run in there. When it dries, it does dry a little darker than how it looks. So just work your way around. And finally, we want to do the tip of the lance. So I didn't really know where to do it on this, so I just sort of put it where I thought there might be an energy glow. As it's going on, you'll get an idea of where looks good and where doesn't. It's going on so thin that it's basically like a stronger version of a glaze that you're putting on. So it is quite easy to move it around and get it to do what you want it to do. Okay, so now to emphasize that glowing effect, we're going to get some Lamia medium and Baharoth blue. And I use the Lamia medium first because it means that you don't have to worry about the paint contaminating your medium afterwards. So I think I use about 3 to 1 of this. Even if you go a bit thinner, it's not really going to be an issue because you want this pretty thin. Just get a little Baroth blue on your brush there, mix it in with the Lamia medium. Give it a good mix around there. Get a little bit on your brush. Take the part you want to work on and just let it run into the nodes on the shield generator there. And again, you're going to work around on all the different parts of the model that you've previously applied the Thousand Suns blue to. And with that done, that is the knight finished. So all you have to do is come along and glue on your armor panels, apply your decals, and base it up in a style that suits the rest of your army. I use the Microsol decal solution to apply my transfers, and then I give it a coat of Munitorum varnish. Listen guys, I hope you liked the tutorial. Let me know in the comments section what you think. Have you painted any of these? Anyway guys, listen, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one.